I am okay. I am live. I'm doing this. I am Keishan, your human resource. I help people see the possibilities in what they think is impossible. I am disrupting HR, disrupting leadership. And today we're going to talk about effective leadership. And as we talk about effective leadership, we are also going to be talking about ineffective leadership. Effective leadership or not. I have quit my job, wrote a book, and now I'm talking about my experiences throughout my career, throughout my life, throughout my time in the workplace. And one of the things that I have identified that is crucial when it comes to the success of individuals, departments, organizations is leadership, effective leadership. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what does that look like? What is effective leadership? Well, this is what I'll tell you. From my experience, effective leadership is being able to successfully motivate staff to produce whatever the outcome is. So say, for example, I've worked in customer service. I remember, and even like working at like a fast food restaurant, I believe once the order is placed, then a timer starts and you're measured on how long does it take for your customer to receive the food that they order. And this is in a fast food restaurant. However, if you are in an organization that is not fast food, so say, for example, you're working in customer service. I remember working in customer service long time ago. And I was measured on, we were collectively as a department, we were measured on how many calls were in queue and how long it took to address whatever the issue was. I remember even further back when I worked at MSU in the development fund. And that was the department that would contact alums to ask them to donate. I was measured on the number of people or the amount of money I was able to convince people to give to the development fund. Needless to say, I did not fare well in that area. However, I was still measured on it. So, in terms of effective leadership, one of the ways you can identify effective leadership is the trust that the leader puts in staff that will yield the outcome or the product or the increase in numbers. I think of Henry Ford. In the book, Think and Grow Rich, there was a part they were talking about Henry Ford and his ability to get his employees to work. Now, first and foremost, Henry Ford, I'm not sure how much education he had. I don't think it was very much. However, he was still smart enough to figure out what he needed to run a business, clearly, because Ford is all over the world. But he was challenged that he wasn't intelligent enough, effective enough to run an organization. And clearly that was not the case. He was taken to court and they were asking him questions that had nothing to do with him performing his job. I think they asked a question about some war, some other just nonsense. And he was like, why do I need to answer those questions? And this is where his intelligence really kicked in. He said, why would I learn about trivial information when it has nothing to do with running my organization? In that, he also said, I pay people to find the answers to the questions that I need responses to. Now, first and foremost, or second and foremost, that in and of itself was an indicator that he was smart enough to be effective in his leadership role. He didn't need to know all the answers. He hired the people who had the knowledge. That's one identifier of what effective leadership is. The second, and I talked about this a little bit, it has to do with, do you value your employees? I remember working at an organization, and it was in a public relations department, and it seemed like we celebrated everything. There was always pastries, coffee, cake, just lunch was purchased for staff. We had lunch all the time. We went to events, and it made me feel valued as an employee. However, when it becomes the mode of operation, it becomes old. And it's almost as if you're telling employees, well, I'll feed you, so now you need to do this, versus, I really value what you do. Thank you for whatever it is that they're doing. So that's a second identifier. Hiring the right people. Second is, do you value them? And you'll know if you value them, and that's determined by turnover rate. Believe it or not, I don't care what anybody says, I've worked in organizations where people turned over so quickly. Why was that? Because they were not valued, or they were hired wrong in the first place. The expectation was not established by the organization, by the leader, or it was misrepresented. As a leader, do you misrepresent the expectation and what is really what the job function? Because you can tell somebody all day long, and they can read a job description. That's not an indicator of what the job really is. An indicator is telling the truth about the job, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think not telling the ugly sometimes leads to the misconception that you're going to come into an organization that has represented themselves well. I was talking to somebody yesterday in a meeting, and one of the things that we talked about was what's on the website of the organization that will give you an indication of what you should expect. Values and principles mean nothing because everybody has them. They put them on their websites. They tell you need to know the values and principles, the mission statement, and so on and so forth. But when you get into the organization, it's a completely different story. We're talking about effective leadership. Why is that? Why does the narrative change when somebody is actually brought into the organization? They're hired, they say yes, they get there, and all of those morals, principles, those values, mission statement, and everything else just goes out the window. That's the difference between effective leadership and ineffective leadership. So as a leader, no matter what the organization is, and even within your household, what is the expectation that is established, and is it adhered to? Or what behaviors are you demonstrating? Do you value your kids? Do they know that you love them? And I'll close with this. There were 2 times in my career where the expectation was set by the leader that they wanted me to be somebody else. I was told twice that I expected you to be like my predecessor. And I remember having a conversation after I had left one organization, and we talked about it. And my leader at that time told me, Keishan, you're right. I should not have expected for you to behave or to perform like somebody else. And it wasn't that my performance was poor. the expectation was a misconception in that leader's mind. So as a leader, I want to caution you that when you bring somebody into an organization, don't set up an expectation in your mind that they're going to be like somebody else, because everybody's different. They're not going to be like somebody else. They're going to be like who they are. What to focus on should be, can they perform the job and get it done? That should be the focus. So that is all that I have to share. Again, my name is Keishan. I am your human resource. I help people see the possibilities in what they think is impossible. I am disrupting HR, disrupting leadership, and I hope this shook you up a little bit and disrupted you as well. Until next time, I'll be on tomorrow afternoon sometime and then back again on Thursday at 7 p.m. Take care. God bless.